Religion, from the Latin religare, to bind together, the same linguistic root as ligament. We have throughout the ages sought and found religious fellowship with one another. And now we realize that we are connected to all creatures, not just in food chains and ecological equilibria. We share common ancestry. We share genes for receptors and membrane channels and metabolic cycles. We share evolutionary constraints and possibilities. We share the same basic aims and purposes. We are connected all the way down. I walk through the woods and the creatures are everywhere, seen and unseen, flying about or pushing through the soil and rummaging under the leaf litter, adapting and interacting and reproducing. I open my senses to them and we connect. I don't need to anthropomorphize them, nor to value them because they are beautiful or amusing or needed for my survival. I see them as they are. I understand how they work. I think about their genes switching on and off, their cells dividing and differentiating in pace with my own, homologous to my own. Blessed be the tide that binds. It anchors us. We are embedded in the great story of biological evolution, the spare, elegant process of mutation and selection and symbiosis. And that means that we are anything but alone. Good morning again. Let me start out with a bit about who I am. I was a professor of biology at Washington University in St. Louis for 40 years, and every summer we lived in our house in Chilmark, built in 1976. In 2017, I retired at age 74 and have been a year-rounder since then. My two daughters also live in Chilmark with their families, teaching at Tisbury and charter schools. My three sons live in Paris, Colorado, and Virginia with their families, and I am blessed with 10 grandchildren. In 1999, I published a book called Sacred Depths of Nature. Oh, this is, oh, thank you. Hey, you got the key, that's impressive. Okay, my book, wherein I offer my version of a religious naturalist orientation that I'll talk about later, abbreviated RN. When I moved here and joined a church, I led a reading book group, offered several RN-based sermons, and sang in the choir. But my time has mostly been spent writing a second edition of the book, ta-da, and serving as president of an online nonprofit group called the Religious Naturalist Association, which now has more than 1,300 members from 50 states and 54 non-US countries. This morning I'll first outline what we mean by religious naturalism, or RN, and I'll then explore its relationship to Unitarian Universalism. So, what is a religious naturalist orientation? Let's start with naturalist. If a person takes our science-based understandings of the natural world seriously, as a core understanding, then I would say that that person is a naturalist. And I suspect that's most of you here. Naturalists recognize that our current understandings of nature, what we call everybody's story, are incomplete and they will deepen. But we consider what we already know to be mind-boggling. Here's an elevator speech version of everybody's story from my dear friends Mary Evelyn Tucker and Brian Swim. Our universe is a single immense energy event that began as a tiny speck that has unfolded over time to become galaxies and stars, palms and pelicans, the music of Bach, and each of us alive today. The great discovery of contemporary science is that the universe is not simply a place, but a story in which we are immersed, to which we belong, and out of which we arose. So then, who are religious naturalists? Our catchphrase is that religious naturalists take nature to heart. We do this along three axes. The first axis can be called interpretive or existential. We ponder such questions as, what does everybody's story tell me about the meaning of life? Where do the laws of physics come from? Why is there anything at all rather than nothing? That kind of thing. The second axis we call eco-spiritual. Our experiences of awe, wonder, reverence, gratitude, humility, and joy as we contemplate and participate in the natural world. And the third is ecomoral, committing ourselves to nurture our earthly community of beings and their habitats. Ecomorality entails eco-activism. When you care deeply about something, you feel outrage when it is desecrated and call for repair and renewal. So, to move to my second topic, what's the relationship between RN and Unitarianism? The current versions of RN were to a large extent developed by Unitarians, many on Star Island in the 1990s. In the early 2000s, a group of us, calling ourselves UURN, applied to Boston to form a UUA-affiliated group. We were turned down for complex reasons, but the idea has persisted. I sense deep RN affinities in every UU congregation I visit, and many members of our Religious Naturalist Association self-identify as Unitarian. The founder of our ongoing Google group listserv suggested that we call ourselves RNUU, noting that UURN sounds like urine, while RNUU sounds like renew. So how does regular UU differ from RNUU? So if you find your service and look at the left-handed image, it illustrates the newly adopted Article 2. Now this is going to get a little whatever for those of you who aren't Unitarian, but you might find it anthropologically interesting. So Article 2 is described as the covenant to which all of our congregants pledge themselves when they become UU members. Hence, this presumably depicts regular UU. In the center, in the left-hand side, is love. And radiating from love are 5 values: equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice, that lift up our deep commitment to defeat the indignities that pervade human culture, starting with poverty and racism and hunger. These values are basically human-centric. The 6th value up at the top, called interdependence, captures the essence of what used to be called the 7th principle. It reads, "We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation." This 6th value, then, departs from the human centricity of the other 5 and carries RN sensibilities. The image on the right shows how I, for one, would amend the diagram to reflect my RN orientation. I would place interdependence, and I would add interrelationship, in the center, and would move love to become one of the 6 values that radiate from that foundation. It is because we are interrelated and interdependent, I would say, that we are called to the values that we call love, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. So yes, UU, religious naturalists, are also regular Unitarians. We continue to care deeply about the human and strive for social coherence. But we do so while anchored in our story, which Mary Oliver has put it, over and over announces our place in the family of things. Several months ago, with my new book and other obligations behind me, I realized that I was ready to return to the exploration of RNUU concepts that we conceived on Star Island 25 years ago. I'd been encouraged to do this by our beloved members Esther Hopkins and Barb Casal, so it made sense to try it out within this congregation in their memory. Happily, our worship committee has given me the green light to organize monthly RN-based services in this beautiful chapel and see where it goes. So how might RNUU be explored and practiced in this chapel? After all, this eco-spirituality axis is most deeply experienced out of doors, during a walk in the woods or a sunset or digging in the garden, making a meadow. Eco-activism entails outdoor community projects, and there are many existing organizations on the island, like the Vineyard Conservation Society, Biodiversity Works, and the Interfaith Climate Action Team, with whom we can partner. So what might we do in this room? I've collected lots of beautiful RN-centric poems and prose that we can read together. I know of wonderful sermons by RNUU-affiliated ministers that we can watch together on YouTube. We will also participate in services developed by our Vineyard Covenant of UU Pagans, led by Rebecca, Sam, and Nora. These services will deepen our connection with earth-based cycles and the traditions of ecocentric, indigenous, and pagan practice. Nora and Rebecca will be doing their next service on October 26th, and I hope you will come. Best of all, there will hopefully be ideas that come from you as to how to best explore and celebrate the RN orientation in the context of our cherished Sunday morning rituals. Let's close by reading together the Mother Nature's Prayer, written on the second page of your order of service. Our Mother, who art within us, hallowed be thy name. Thy ways evolve, thy will calls forth this earth that is now our heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and fill us with tenderness as we repair our trespasses, and lead us forth into communion, and deliver us from dominion. For thine is our wellspring, and our grounding, and our glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Our closing hymn is a favorite of Ursula's, and all of us, I do believe. It's Blue Boat Home. It's page 1064 in the teal hymnal. Let me give you a second to get it.
Please be seated while I read a poem by Billy Collins, who sometimes comes here to Featherstone. I don't know if you ever caught him. He's fabulous. I pick an orange from a wicker basket and place it on the table to represent the sun. Then down at the other end, a blue and white marble becomes the earth. And nearby, I lay the little moon of an aspirin. I get a glass from the cabinet, open a bottle of wine. Then I sit in a ladder-back chair, a benevolent God presiding over a miniature creation myth. And I begin to sing, a homemade canticle of thanks for this perfect little arrangement, for not making the earth too hot or cold, not making it spin too fast or slow, so that the grove of orange trees and the owl become possible, not to mention the rolling wave, the play of the clouds, geese in flight, and the Z of lightning on a dark lake. Then I fill my glass again and give thanks for the trout, the oak, and the yellow feather, singing the room full of shadows as sun and earth and moon circle one another in their impeccable orbits. And I get more and more cockeyed with gratitude.